Welcome to the September Crane Research Forum. We're really glad that you're here with us in person. We also have people joining us on Zoom, so they can sort of hear our room chatter, but we wanted to welcome you for being here online as well. I'm Kathy Kupsky. I'm Marketing and Events Manager here at the Crane Center. And before we dive into the talk, I was just going to go over a couple of housekeeping notes for everyone. So if you're joining us online, live captioning is available. I'll be keeping an eye on that Zoom chat. And so if you have any technical needs or anything during the session, just feel free to pop in there. If you want to ask a question that will be answered live during the session at the end of the seminar, just use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. You can also upvote questions there. And then to our folks here in the room, you can raise your hands and we'll be taking questions from both. For everyone at the end of today's forum, we're going to actually leave a few minutes in the actual session to fill out a post-event survey. This is really short, but it's really important. We're really dedicated to making these events matter for the people who are seeking this information. So we really value your input. So please make sure to take a few minutes and fill that out. We'll actually give you the few minutes here while we're here today. So thank you for being here. And now I'll turn it over to our Director of Research, Dr. Rebecca Dorn.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Kathy, and thank you all for being here today, both in person and online. These Crane Research Forums spotlight research from The Ohio State University on key and emerging topics in early development and learning, and impacts to young children and the adults who support them. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Dr. Tzu-Jung Lin. Dr. Lin is a professor of educational psychology in the Department of Educational Studies here at Ohio State and one of our Crane Center faculty associates. Her research explores how classroom environments shape children's cognitive and social development, especially through collaborative learning, dialogic inquiry, and instructional strategies that foster engagement. Her recent work on the Digital Civic Learning curriculum was featured by Ohio State News, highlighted its potential to help students become thoughtful, responsible citizens. Today, Dr. Lin will share more about this curriculum, which she co-developed with educators for 4th and 5th graders. It's designed to promote civic learning through respectful dialogue and collaborative problem solving. I'm really looking forward to this presentation and conversation. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I hope everybody hear me well. Welcome to my presentation, both in person and online. If you can't hear me clearly, please feel free to interrupt me. I will try to raise my voice. I'm known to have very soft voice, but when I'm presenting, I try to project in a teacher's voice. My title of the presentation is Enriching Civic Learning Opportunities in Elementary Schools. Again, my name is Tzu-Jung Lin, and I want to introduce my co-principal investigator, Michael Glassman, who is here with us in the room, and Dr. Eric Anderman, who is online. The three of us have been co-leading this project for over 5 years, and it's our great privilege to partner with over 20 graduate students and a lot of teachers and students to make this happen. And our research team is termed the Digital Civic Learning Group. I hope you like this cute logo, which is developed by one of our own students. And I want to acknowledge our founder, the Institute of Education Sciences. Without the funding, we cannot do anything. With this effort, we were able to iteratively develop a civic learning curriculum in social studies classrooms. And if you see the years, it ranged from 2020 to 2025. It was during, the COVID pandemic, a very exciting period to run school-based, classroom-based research. So in the following slides, if you see our students and teachers wearing masks, don't get surprised because that reflects the historical period. So it was a very emotional moment for me to prepare for this presentation because of what's going on in the society right now. When we think about civic learning and think about what's happening to Charlie Kirk, to Irina. I'm trying to pronounce her last name correctly. Zazuzka, the Ukrainian girl who got killed on the train, and Luigi, who's recently in the news again, who gunshot a insurance company CEO, right? So it keeps me wondering what is going on in the society that people have to resort to violence. Is that the one and only final solution? And then I was reading Joe Kahn. He is a well-known civic education researcher in the University of California. I think he was in Irvine, right? Joe Kahn's work has inspired us throughout the past several years. And I highly encourage you to read his most recent AERA Open article. And I quote one of his sentences here. We are living in a time of escalating affective polarization, anti-democracy, and politics of resentment. When I was driving to the center, I was listening to a podcast, and it happens that the presenters were talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. And one sentence that they were talking about resonated strongly with me. It seems that people nowadays don't know how to solve problems together collectively. We are gradually losing the ability to work together as a collective group, as a community, to problem solve, to pursue the common good. And that's why civic education is important. Education is one and the most important fundamental solution to allow us to maintain a harmonious and productive democratic society. And here I want to quote Dewey's powerful sentence. Democracy must be reborn in every generation, and education is midlife. What does that mean? We cannot assume that democracy, once we establish it, it lasts forever. No, it requires long-lasting, continuous effort from everybody to maintain the value, to withhold the attitude, and to take actions in a collective way. And that's the motivation for us to initiate this Digital Civic Learning project. But you may ask, why are we focusing on civic learning opportunities in elementary schools? It seems that civic learning is so far away from elementary schools or their developmental level. But a lot of research shows that early development of civic competencies predict students' future civic engagement and participation. Why is the voting rate so low in our society? Maybe there was not enough civic learning opportunities in schools, both formal and informal, to help people understand how important it is to vote. So that's one of the most important reasons why we want to work with elementary students. And developing civic competencies take time. Think about one of the most important civic competencies, perspective taking. How many adults can do perspective taking well? It is hard, it takes time, and it takes the whole society, environmental support to do it. And it unfolds gradually from childhood to adolescence, and opportunities cannot be assumed to only happen with older children or adolescents. We need to start early. And civic competencies do not develop naturally. Going back to perspective taking, if we don't provide students with productive, purposeful instruction, dialogue can go in various directions, and children may not even know how to initiate a respectful, meaningful dialogue with others when they try to solve problems together. So what do we mean by civic competencies here? If we look across the literature, they pretty much talk about three things: civic knowledge, civic skills, and civic dispositions. But today I want to not only talk about these three things, but the level at which these three things happen. I want to emphasize that civic competencies are not just individual traits. Perspective taking is not a trait. It's an evolving ability. It's a community-driven characteristics. Social capital is not an individual trait. It's our ability to nurture our own social network and use our social relationships to do good for the community. And so what we mean by civic competencies for our projects are the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that enable one to engage in respectful and well-informed dialogue and decision-making as responsible community members, and the knowledge, skills, and disposition to participate effectively in a democracy. So how can we introduce civic learning opportunities in elementary classrooms? Here is our approach. We call it a community-engaged approach. We want to build a classroom or even a school community where students and teachers, they can exercise their collective agency in achieving unity of efforts for common goals. And this collective agency is not about what can I do? It is what can we do together? So there's a difference between collective agency and individual agency. And we also want to create this community where students and teachers can build strong social bond and collective advocacy in maintaining social order. What is the most productive, respectful classroom policy or rules that we should all maintain and even enhance over time with each other? And can I do it with my friends? And do I have friends in my classroom to do things together? That's the social bond and the belief that, yes, we can do it together. That's what we mean by collective efficacy. And we hope students' civic competencies can be developed through participating in authentic civic activities. And what we mean by authentic is not just polling a real life example and have students read and process it. It's to create a scenario where students can be immersed into and realize that's also something that they are experiencing in their own life, something they can build some connections to their personal experience and background knowledge, and something that can trigger their eagerness to take actions to do the common good for everyone. So there are some key approaches because this is just a 14 minutes presentation. I can't delve into our instructional materials in depth, but I'll highlight a couple of key practices here. One key practice is a norming and renorming practice that teachers and students do together. It's not that teachers are always standing on the stage demanding students what to do and what not to do. The process is collective. The teacher will invite students to set up norms together. And then they have the social agreement that, yeah, because we are a community, we all need to follow our own rules. So you can see that students generate their own discussion norms. And here I want to show you a small clip expressing how a teacher effectively informs students a way to listen carefully to each other.
When you arrive at the party at someone's house, the cake's not done, the decorations aren't done, none of those things are done. Is it time for the party yet? No, nothing's done. When you arrive at the party, aren't you ready for the party? Do you want to be invited to a friend's house and have to bake the cake, put up the direct decorations,
Get everything ready for you to arrive at that party. Be ready to hang out with your friends. Right? Feel different today. Is when you arrive in our discussion groups, we're gonna have to honor a little bit, okay?
All right. So we call it norming and renorming because teachers are not just doing it at once, they're doing it in a continuous manner. Every day when they get together to talk about digital civic learning, they start with norm. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I like to walk around. But I'll remind myself. Thank you, Kathy. Okay. So another practice is immersive storytelling and problem solving. We create scenarios using technological artifacts. If you see the up left corner picture, this is all drawn and produced by our own students. Can you believe that? So we created this virtual environment on students' learning management system. We use Google Docs, we use PowerPoints, technology that's highly accessible to students in schools. And we created stories involving students in the stories as participant observers. They will sit, they will think, they will act alongside the story characters, imagining the connection between them and the story characters, and then gradually share that sense of agency toward the populations that they care about. So in the middle and the bottom figure, you can see a community with different food stores, or food pantry. And then this is a local Columbus organization that serves food, free food to the community. This is the unit where we talk about food desert, food insecurity. The student population that we work with, they have very limited experience and understanding about food insecurity. It is far beyond their experience. So how can we draw them to this reality and help them realize how important this is as a societal problem, and what can they do to help people who are in need? We use immersive storytelling and give them a way to do perspective taking. And it was an emotional moment when they first read a story, and that was the purpose of this immersive storytelling. We want to start with affect. We want to start it with motivation, and then we gradually lead them toward more intellectual dialogue. So here's another example of our immersive storytelling. When talking about food insecurity, my colleague Michael Glassman and one of our students, Shantanu Tilak, they wrote a children's story. And this is published in our Ohio State University's Knowledge Bank. If you are interested in using the story with your children, feel free to download it. They are open to the public. There are 2 stories in there. And I want to zoom into one of the stories. It's called Jeannie's story. Jeannie is a girl, and the story happened during the COVID pandemic. And one day her dad came back home feeling frustrated and sad because he lost his job. And they also they were lack of food. They didn't have enough milk for their little brother. So the father decided to take Jeannie to the food pantry in the local community. They wanted to get some free food. And this is all new to Jeannie because before the COVID pandemic, they had no issues with food insecurity, and all of a sudden they were drawn into this problem. And in the food pantry, they encountered an issue where they really wanted some milk, but there's a lack of milk even within in the food pantry. And then an old lady saw them and graciously gave them some milk out of her own pocket. So the dad and the girl began to ask themselves, should we take it or not? It seems that there are more people who need the food support. Should we take them, or should we give this opportunity to other people? And I want to show you another small video clip. This is during the time when the teachers start reading the story, having this interactive moment with students, and let's see how she interacted with the children.
Does anybody want to add on to that thought? Dan? Why don't those people have a lot of money right now? Because of COVID. So in that situation, I like your problem solving, and I like the way you're thinking. But also to Dan's point, other people might not have the money to buy. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else, correct? If my family were really, my dad had a job. Absolutely.
This means agree. I agree.
Yeah. Because he understood that he was strong smart, right? Sydney?
If you were trying to look at this, she probably could do it because it was the middle of winter, but I remember then
That's true, the text evidence. So they're put.
All right. So if you missed the last question or comment from a girl, she was saying maybe they could sell lemonade as a solution to their food insecurity problem. So I want to pause here and ask if anyone, if this video caught your attention in any aspect.
They're kind of focused on solutions that require the individual to solve the problem, like do a lemonade stand, get another job, rather than a collective solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was so cute for the kids to wanting to brainstorm some solutions for this family that's in need. But you know, selling lemonade, and later a boy talked about selling hot chocolate. And at the beginning of this video clip, a boy asked, "Why do people not have food? Why does that happen?" He couldn't understand, and the teacher had to help him out and say that because of COVID, and there's a complex pact of reasons that explain why some people would not have enough food during that time. And so you can see that kids, they want to care. They are eager to learn more, but they may not have that direct experience to understand why is this so difficult. And through storytelling and our following the story, we have some activities for students to do. What we call immersive activity. This happens when, let me see if I can go to the next page. All right. So, for example, after reading the story, we tell the students that now you're going to move to Jeannie's neighborhood. And you will introduce your family to your neighbors. And following that, there's a series of problems that they need to solve together. By imagining, and actually they have a visual representation of the neighborhood on their laptop, and they're all reading and working on it together with their classmates in the classroom. So by imagining that they're living in a neighborhood, what would they do? How will they budget their limited amount of money to buy just enough food for the entire family of 4 or 5? So we group students into a group of 4 and 5, and ask them to assign family roles. So that we did a lot of cute things to help students just immerse themselves and think that what if they were one of the story characters living in the community, and what problems can they solve and how to solve them together. And after that immersive learning experience, it's time for students to come together and do some collective civic dialogue. And we deliberately created a space where kids understand that it is okay to have disagreement. But when we disagree, or even if we agree, we need to provide evidence and justification. It is okay to have a dialogue with some emotions. It's okay to feel bad, to feel angry, but we come together to solve the problem together. So how can we put our emotions, our intellectual inputs, our personal or collective experience together in this space to have a healthy, genuine dialogue to solve problems? And students are not just coming together in small group to talk in person. They also have online discussion opportunities. They also can do a, we call story essay or self-recording essay, where they video record themselves and share their opinions in a small, short video clip, like 1 to 2 minutes, and then they share the video with their classroom community. So there are multiple ways. Thanks to the technology, the students can have their voice heard and communicate with each other. This is one of the sample questions that we asked students to solve together. Before reaching to this question, students learned that not all neighborhoods have enough food. Some neighborhoods may not have enough grocery stores. That's where we call the food desert. And grocery stores cannot really open in those areas because they think that if they open it there, they cannot make enough money. So if you were running a grocery store, what would you do? Would you rather find a place where you can earn a lot of money? Or do you want to open your grocery store in a community that needs food? So it's both a moral, civic, and economics question for students to solve. And they cannot solve it with any single, just one perspective. They need to incorporate multiple perspectives. As an economist, as a moral person, as a citizen. All right. So those are the key instructional practices that we incorporate in our intervention and students' experience for instructional units, all following this deliberate sequence. If we look at our project as a whole, this is a 3-year iterative development project. We started year 1 and year 2 with a small group of teachers and their students. We co-developed the curriculum together. And in year 3, we conducted a quasi-experimental study where we assigned 11 teachers to the DCL group and 10 teachers and their students to the business as usual group. Here are some nice pictures of me and my colleagues working in schools, in environments. We travel to schools most of the time to have healthy and productive dialogue with our teachers. We ask them, what do you need? What can we do to fulfill your needs? Most of these teachers we work with are social studies teachers. And one of the needs they express all the time is, we have these learning standards that we need to cover. How can you help us meet these learning standards? And that's the collaboration that we did on a continuous basis. We provide instructional materials and we revise them based on their learning standards, and we revise them again based on their time limits. We revise them again based on students and teachers' inputs in terms of their comprehension. Here are more quite nice photos of me and others. We meet not only in person, but sometimes we meet online. If teachers can't get to can give us time after school, we meet them during school hours when they have a break. All right, and how I'm doing with time. Okay, good. So now I want to spend about 10 minutes to show you our most recent findings based on the year 3 quasi-experiment study. In year 3, like I said earlier, we collaborated with a total of 23 teachers, 11 in the experimental and 12 in the control groups, across 3 suburban school districts in Central Ohio. In total, we had 371 students, mostly equal in gender, in terms of race and family belongings. This is a proxy of student socioeconomic status. We can say that this is a relatively diverse groups in terms of race and ethnicity and their socioeconomic status. And we measure students' civic competencies in multiple ways. And in this presentation, I want to focus on these 6 dimensions. This is a pre-test and post-test assessment where we ask students to report their social perspective taking ability, perceived skills, and their social self-concepts, the extent to which they perceive their ability to manage social interactions and their social lives. We also look at their collective efficacy. How much do they perceive their group working well together to achieve a common goal? And also networking agency, because the relationship that students are building, the connections they have, not only exist within classroom environment in person, but also in the online space. So we are interested in knowing to what extent students feel comfortable and willing to share their ideas with others and willing to tackle or engage in an idea online in writing or by talking, even if the ideas are different from theirs. We assess students' social capital and peer acceptance as a way of assessing how harmonious and connected the social network is in the classroom. I don't expect you to read this complex table, but I want to highlight a few points here. We look at how these different civic competencies differ between the experimental group and the control group. And the line that says condition, it stands for difference between DCL and our business as usual control. And if you see an asterisk, that means, yes, there is a difference between the 2 groups. If it is positive, that means DCL groups outperform the businesses as usual. If it's negative, which I don't see any here, then that means the business as usual outperform the DCL. So you can see across the board, the results are very positive. And let me try to move my image here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, students demonstrated higher social perspective taking, social self-efficacy, social self-concept, collective efficacy. Their social capital also improved and more strongly than the control. Their peer acceptance also got higher, improved more than the control. And I want to talk about social capital specifically because within social capital, there are 2 sub-constructs. The bonding capital refers to the extent to which students want to build connections with their like-minded peers or peers who may have shared similar beliefs, similar thoughts. Whereas bridging capital refers to the extent to which kids enjoy interacting with peers who may have different opinions than theirs, who may have different perspectives, who come from different backgrounds. And we didn't see a significant condition effect on bonding capital, but the bridging capital shows that exciting positive effects. So what does our study tell us? Our evidence supports the initial efficacy. I want to emphasize this is just an initial efficacy because we do want to do more in this line of work in the future to replicate our study and to amplify the strong effects that we see in this preliminary quasi-experimental study. But the current evidence does show that we successfully built a community-engaged approach to enhance students' agency and efficacy, to take communal actions in civic activities, to create strong bonding to the classroom community, and the communal engagement for perspective taking and collaborative problem solving. In the future, we want to continue to build this DCL curriculum, not only within the social studies subjects, but across multiple subjects in elementary schools, because we believe that civic learning should not just reside within social studies. Civic learning, civic perspective, and attitude should be a virtue that range across multiple disciplines. And one exciting thing that we continue to hear from our collaborating teachers is that to this date, we still have many teachers using our curriculum in their social studies classroom. They enjoy it and their kids enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Take questions from the audience in the room. I have a few questions from coming in from the chat, but we can start with any questions that folks have here in the room.
Yeah, Monica, and then.
So given that there's so much pushback on like discussion about some of the social issues going on, what are some like thoughts that you have for like kind of continue to push out something like DCL or encouraging schools to take on curriculums that encourage discussion?
So the issue of this freedom of speech is escalating these days. I cannot say that I am not afraid of being hearing some pushback from parents or pushback from even school administrators, but we believe that a lot of issues are essentially civic. We don't need to talk about the so-called controversial issues in order to have students engage in civic learning in the classroom. When they think about food security or insecurity, when they think about how to make sense of a historical moment, I think our role as an educator is not to teach students what to learn, but how to think and learn. We give them methods and we give them resources to look for more resources. And they, once equipped with civic competencies, they will have the opportunity and the ability to solve problems in ways that they think are more justifiable and more appropriate.
Do you have a question?
Yes, so thank you. This looks really great. I just wanted to know how extensive the curriculum is that you've developed so far. Give us some examples, but you could maybe talk a bit about what the whole curriculum, the whole program looks like.
What does it look like?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is a curriculum that can be directly embedded in 4th and 5th grade social studies curriculum. And we read very closely the learning standards in Ohio for social studies. It needs to cover 4 strands of subjects: history, government, geography, and economics. And when working on these units with our teachers, we intentionally built 1 unit under each strand of requirements. So in terms of civic knowledge, we made sure that students are learning history, they're learning economics, the food security and security unit is within the economics unit because they need to learn about demand and cost and how to find a balance. But the topics that we initially selected with our teachers some of them may have become a bit more sensitive during this historical time. But it is our belief that the instructional framework is effective. And we can replace our instruction with any content that teachers want them to teach. For example, when talking about government, we had a topic that related to immigration. But there are many stories, many materials that are related to immigration that meet the learning standards, but can also meet our instructional goal, being providing multiple perspectives, right? So that's actually a very good question. Our next step, as I briefly mentioned, we want to build this curriculum across subjects, not only in social studies, but in science, in language arts, even in math. And with the same framework, we believe that instructional materials can be easily blended in and incorporated into classroom environments. Thank you.
We actually had a question about that online as well, about how do you incorporate this into science specifically, but they're also asking about other topics like economics, politics, public affairs. Like, what is that? Can you say more about what that might look like?
Yeah, well, actually, we are building a similar unit in science right now. And every time when we build a unit, we always incorporate practitioner's voice. We try to understand what's the most important topic, most interesting topic to children and to teachers these days. And we want the story, we want the unit to begin with a story, but the story cannot be in any story. It needs to be a story that can hook our students, at the same time helping students build some personal connections. The personal connection piece is very important because we found that when teaching history, why is history sometimes a failed subject to teach? Because they are taught in a way that makes students think that that's not related to me. Why am I learning it? They don't understand the famous quote, history repeats itself. They don't understand it. They don't know how urgent and related these historical moments are to them right now. So the stories that we are looking for serves as a way to build that connection. Yeah. So that's how we incorporate our units into curriculum, finding personal connections, at the same time meeting learning standards. And you can see how challenging it may be at times, but we were glad that so far we were able to do it. Michael or Marga, both of them are part of our project. Do you want to add anything at this moment?
No, I think that was a pretty good explanation. Yeah, how you build it into the curriculum. I think just the thing to realize is the curriculum is very action-based, and the students are doing something, and then we put this sort of the goal of what they do is aligned with what it means to learn subjects.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know you talked about doing collaborative work with the teachers in developing it, but I'm curious about like what level of training or work with the teachers to be able to implement the curriculum, and like how accessible is it to teachers that were not in the study as you look forward for expanding to more classrooms?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. So we do provide professional development with teachers, and it shares some common features with other typical professional development where workshops are held, teachers come and they absorb some knowledge from us and they try to incorporate them in the classroom. But that is not everything that we do with teachers. When we implement the unit, we have field researchers in the classroom, either in an online or virtual format. We observe what teachers do And after class, we problem solve with teachers. How did we do today? And do you need any assistance? And to be honest, our curriculum, our instructional approaches, they may sound easy when I present it, but when we implement them, they are very complex to implement. Just take dialogue as an example. Teachers, even we cannot predict how a dialogue can evolve in the classroom. So teachers need to have an adaptive expertise to be able to deal with different situations, different circumstances in the classroom in the moment. So, we collaborate with teachers a lot, both in the setting and before and after setting, to help us brainstorm some ways of dealing with different student reactions, difficulties, or challenges that they may experience in class.
I'd also add that our professional development is different from a lot of other professional development, is that it's not like linear. It's not like we're teaching them how to do something, it's a feedback. Meaning we learned a lot from being with them. Professional development, it went into our curriculum development, it went into our next iteration of how we teach us how we do professional development. So we learn as much from them as they learn from us. As far as teachers, did go through the training? Hopefully, if things get better in society, we'll find that out, because the teachers and some teachers in schools are sharing it with their new colleagues who come in who haven't done any, and all they have is being able to talk with the teachers we did professional development. So hopefully, at some time we'll be able to go back into the schools and really talk with the teachers who didn't go through professional development to see what happened.
Yeah, I just want to add two things there. Most of the teachers would tell us after they completed the project with us that, well, at the beginning, when I participated in professional development, I never thought that these would happen. And I realized the true learning moments for me as a teacher was when I was doing it. And so we really value this learning by doing approach. We gave teachers some principles, but we also give teachers a heads up that, well, the principles that we comprehend at this moment may look very different when you actually implement them. And that's when dialogue between us and teachers need to happen again to help them reflect on what exactly do we mean by principle A, B, and C. Yeah. And another thing that we are trying to do is because teachers have to often go back to our PD materials, but if we don't have a well-organized PD materials, it's hard for them to go back and reread them. So we are building an online professional development module for teachers to have easier access when they do them in practice.
We have a question from online about, you mentioned Charlie Kirk, and that some of these topics that you're touching on in your curriculum might touch on some political areas. Like, how do you talk to teachers about handling that and responding to that and facilitating that discussion in the classroom?
Yeah, I think going back to an earlier comment I made, well, we are not teaching students what to think. We're teaching students how to think. And again, dialogue can go in various directions. And I don't think it's teachers' job to say, no, let's not talk about this. But we welcome students into the safe space, and we encourage them to listen and to reflect on each other's perspectives. So that's why setting a healthy classroom discussion norm is important. Disagreement will happen inevitably. Sometimes disagreements may frustrate us, but only by entertaining and engaging with different perspectives can we be closer to the best solutions. what happens to the current societal dialogue is that people don't listen. They don't want to change their positions, and they don't think there's a need to change their positions. And when students have these epistemological or ontological beliefs, there's no way a genuine dialogue can happen. So yeah, so I think it goes back to setting that norm and practice and renorming and repractice.
Other questions from the room?
Yeah.
Have you thought about ways that this could be adapted to earlier elementary?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. How great would it be if we could do it with third graders and second and first graders? Yes, we are. And we are not the only research team who is thinking of it. There's a research group called Educating for American Democracy. It's a federally funded, I don't know if I can call it an organization or
Sort of an amalgamation.
anyways, yes, there's a website. If you Google Educating for American Democracy, you will see that there's a group of passionate civic education researchers who want to build a roadmap for all teachers to incorporate civic education more rigorously into our K-12 environments. And one of the things that they are pushing forward is that it's exactly what we're doing, but they're pushing it to a younger age. Yeah, they are calling for researchers to build curriculum for younger children because of the reasons that I just said. Civic competencies do not just happen immediately. It takes time and it needs to start early.
We had one question online about how do teachers make time for this in the classroom? They have those other like standards they have to deal with. And you mentioned that a little bit and aligning it with Ohio standards. But as you think about scalability and making this publicly accessible outside of Ohio, how do you think about teachers adapting or incorporating this curriculum and aligning it with standards in other parts of the country?
Yeah, well, that is really a question that challenges us all the time. Because if you look at elementary schools curriculum and their school schedule, it's packed. It's so packed that you cannot just ask schools to say, give me 1 hour each week. Let's teach civic education. No, this does not. At least it doesn't work in Central Ohio or in Columbus. Teachers have their own agenda. They have their existing curriculum and content and learning standards to cover. And the chance that they can squeeze in 1 hour each week is very challenging. But if we believe that civic learning or civic values are inherently the basis of everything, civic dialogue and education can happen in every subject. It can happen vicariously when, reading an article and maybe it triggers a discussion about some moral issues or some societal issues. Then maybe teachers can use our dialogue strategy to pause and have students talk about it. Even with just 5 minutes, that dialogic spell, well, this is an academic term, you can Google it. Dialogic spell, it literally means a productive moment of dialogue in the classroom. And the person who came up with this term was telling people that dialogue is so rare in the classroom. It is so rare that we can't even find that spell moment. But when it occurs, even it's just 5 minutes, it makes a huge difference. So what I'm trying to say is that civic learning doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it needs to happen in the right time and with high quality. Yeah, and our curriculum does not have to be taught as a whole. It can be, you can take the dialogue piece, you can take the immersive learning piece, and you can insert any strategy in any moment in your curriculum that you see fit. That's how I see our curriculum, and the spirit of it can be generalized across different places.
That's great. Well, that's a great place to leave it. Thank you so much, Dr. Lin, for such a thoughtful presentation. And thank you all for being here today, both in the room and online.
Yeah, thank you.